Special assessments on condos. What are they? What do they mean? How much should be in your reserve fund? What's the ins and outs? We're going to talk about that right after this. Hey everybody, my name is Jared Chamberlain and we are here in our office today and we're talking about special assessments for condos. And I am joined by the wonderful Rebecca Hewitt.
Thank you.
Welcome, and this is a couple videos in now, so you're like a natural.
I'm an expert.
An expert.
Not.
No. And so Rebecca does run a company called I Am Condo Savvy.
No, it's actually called Condo Savvy.
Oh, but the website.
My website is iamcondosavvy.ca.
That's
correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
So iamcondosavvy.ca. So if you're doing condo document reviews or inspections, she's someone that you should definitely talk to.
I am the person for you.
Yes, she absolutely is.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to be talking about special assessments on condos. What is a special assessment? How long do they last? All these kind of good things. So let's just jump right in. So maybe give us a definition of your definition, not the official, because I don't even know if there is an official, but I'm sure there is. But what is a special assessment?
The quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. It really is a cash call.
I like it.
It's a cash call for when maybe the condominium corporation, when they don't have enough money for operations or to do capital projects for the reserve fund.
Totally.
So what happens if they don't have enough money? Basically, the board will levy a special assessment, and then a letter will go out to owners letting them know how much it is, when it's due, and what it's for.
Yeah.
And owners don't have a choice but to pay.
Yeah. Well, because when you buy into a condo, you are buying into a portion of this corporation.
Yes.
And so now you are a quote unquote shareholder, if you want to think of it that way, in this corporation, and you own your own little piece of that pie. And if that pie doesn't have cash, guess who pays for it?
Absolutely.
The shareholders.
Yes. And if you have your unit up for sale.
Yeah.
And there's a special assessment, it's payable before the unit is sold.
That's right.
So it's payable by the seller, not the buyer.
And it actually, this has come up a few times in condo sales. A special assessment was called the week before a possession date. And they put out the documents, the letters, and anything up until that possession date, it's on the seller to pay.
It is.
And anything after is on the buyer.
Yes.
So, so what does, well, actually that kind of answers us, what is a special assessment? So the other part is, we've had this question a few times, but does condo insurance cover special assessments?
I believe there are insurance policies that you can get. As a occupant of a condo, an owner of a condo, you're going to need to get insurance anyways for your contents. You're going to want to get insurance to buy down that deductible for water damage. And I believe that you can get one that covers special assessments, but it's
really rare.
Yeah, I don't entirely know.
Yeah.
But it would certainly be worth asking.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's worth shopping around.
Yes.
I know for us, we had one condo, this was years ago, and it had a special assessment. And I think it was about $4,000 or $4,500. We had 2 units, so it's like $8,000 or $9,000 that we had to put in for the special assessment. And our insurance policy actually covered it.
Nice.
But you got a one time. Like there was a lot of things around it, and it was rare. And I don't know how many companies are doing it anymore. But there could be.
I don't know.
But there could be.
Yeah.
There could be.
There could be.
That's right. So it's worth looking into if you're looking into that. So, so another question that we get a lot is how long do special assessments last for? Like, what have you seen?
Well, so this is another great question. Sometimes reserve fund studies, and for people that don't know, reserve fund studies are basically, it's a report done by a qualified professional that assesses all the components of a condo. Figures out how long they're going to last, when they're going to need major repair and replacement, and figures out how to fund them. Sometimes in those studies, it will actually say special contribution during these years, and it will completely spell it out. So you know that ahead of time, there's some transparency. Other times, you know, depending on what it's used for, there could be a special assessment over a few years.
Interesting.
So you just don't know. It really depends on what it's for.
Yeah. And if you are buying a condo and you, actually, this is another question I added in here, but how do you know if a special assessment could be coming? Let me ask that, and then I'll go back to what I was going to say.
Beautiful question.
Yeah.
And there's a few different ways.
Yeah.
The minutes of a condo tell this beautiful story.
Okay.
They provide insight into how things are being managed. And typically when they're considering a special assessment, it will be discussed in the minutes. So that's why it's really important to get the most up-to-date minutes that you can.
So how many
condo corp?
Yeah. So how many minutes, or how often does a condo corporation usually meet and have minutes in a year? Is there meetings, I should say, that they're recording these minutes for?
You know, it really varies from complex to complex. Some are meeting every month. Sometimes they're meeting once a quarter.
Yeah.
What we've seen during COVID, or at least what I've noticed during COVID, is they're meeting less.
Yeah.
But they're still required to record their decisions, right? So I always want to see at least 12 months.
Yeah.
I can share a story with you. This was a recent review that I did in July, and I asked for minutes.
Yeah.
And the last minutes I got were from January 2021.
Oh.
My client moved in. Within a week of moving in, there was a special assessment. Turns out that there were minutes that weren't turned over to me, even though I requested, from May and from July. And at least the May one should have been.
Yeah.
And so when she went in, she bought her condo, she went on the owner's portal, there it was. She sent them to me, and it was actually talking about a special assessment.
Oh, that's not good.
Thankfully, it was only $1,000.
Yeah.
And she could absorb that. But that's a situation where...
That's a small claims court lawsuit happening.
Yeah.
If it was a big thing. Or she still could. I mean, it's not worth her time for...
Yeah. But that's why it's really important because, and the interesting thing about this one was in the audited financials, which is another place to look, it talked about operating deficits. So this condo corp put out a new budget in the middle of the fiscal year to address that. So I thought, okay, well, this is great. This is taken care of. I put that in my report. I explain it.
Yeah.
But then comes a special assessment, and there was no awareness that was coming. But typically it's the minutes, the audit, and then the reserve fund. Study. If you kind of look at all of those pieces,
you can start seeing where they come from.
You can see it,
No, that's good.
Yeah.
So one of the things you've referenced reserve fund study quite a bit.
Yes.
And so you've talked about what it is. And so that reserve fund is typically a pool of money that is sitting in an account somewhere. And how much you do usually see condos having, or is there some kind of set guideline that condo companies or the corporation should have in a reserve fund to say, hey, we're healthy, kind of?
This is also a really great question. And I think it's really specific from project to project, right? If you have a building that has an elevator, that has underground parking, or you have a building that used to be a rental that's converted into a condo, or if you have townhouses, they're very different needs. Yeah. So I always like to say,
or even bare land.
Exactly.
Straight up single family houses.
That's right.
They're rare, but they're there.
It's totally different. And so I like to say, here's the reserve fund study. If the board is following it, they're following the recommendations, they've got this plan that they've developed, and if they're on track, that's what you want to see. Yeah. Now, you know, sometimes it might not make sense to follow the reserve fund study. Right. For example, lumber is really expensive this year. Yeah. If a condo project wanted to replace the decks, it might not make sense to do it this year, but at least you can understand that.
They're making a reason for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So at least there's some transparency there, right?
Yeah, because we don't need to spend $7,000 on a single deck at this point.
And you know, special assessments, it's very individual. Some people might get really scared by a special assessment, and other people might say, well, no, because this makes sense. Like, this is going to add to the value of X. This is just like if all of a sudden I had to replace the roof at my house. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So they're not totally scary.
I think where people get scared is because so much of it is out of their control. And the word special assessment, cash calls, all those kind of things cause pause for some buyers when they're considering a condo. But I don't, as long as you have a well-run and a good managed corporation that you're buying into, then
Yes.
at that point, and everyone's honest about stuff, then I think you're going to be okay. Because you're right. Like, doesn't matter what you buy, there's going to be repair to it. And this is the way that a condo company and a corporation gets their money to repair. Sure, they take some from condo fees.
Yes.
So are some corporations out there that'll just raise condo fees like crazy and never have special assessments.
Yeah.
But I think that actually hurts the value of the property, because the qualifying value of a buyer when they're going to buy a condo sometimes they can't afford as much. So there's certain complexes in the city, I'm not going to name where, but they're in the Northwest. And some of them, they're beautiful buildings, but their condo fees are so high. And so it's actually pushed their values down, because there's a real rough rule of thumb. For every $100 in condo fees, your qualifying of that condo goes down by $10,000.
Oh.
Versus buying a single family home with no condo fees.
Right.
And so if you end up having higher condo fees, that could hurt the future value of what you're doing. So maybe if you are a part of a condo association and you're going to be voting on should you raise your condo fees or just pay out the special assessment, if you're considering selling in the future, which most people do, because you're not going to hold it forever, sometimes paying out that special assessment is going to be more money in your pocket long term than holding it. Not always, but it's something to consider.
Agreed. And it really, I think it needs to be a thoughtful consideration for the board. I mean, they're all owners.
Yeah.
It's all going to impact them as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So as long as I think they're thoughtfully considering that, I think that's kind of what you need.
Yeah. No, this has been good. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you have more questions about special assessments, anything like that, throw them in the comments. We're going to be watching it always. And if you want to reach out to Rebecca directly, what's the best way?
Give me a phone call, 403-999-1686, or you can email me at info@iamcondosavvy.ca.
There you go. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope this is helpful and you got some good insight into special assessments in condos in Calgary here. And if you have any other questions, reach out to us. You can always do info@chamberlaingroup.ca or 587-316-5400. But we are out. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.